Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it's time for everybody's favorite event in the game because people lose their shit when it doesn't show up on the bingo boards. Heroes Jubilee. So I said it was going to take a while for the videos to come out. Instead, I stayed up till 2 a.m. last night, so you're welcome. You better like the fucking video. But today we're going to be talking about the normal battles. This is where I'm currently sitting. Rank 3, Rank 4, Rank 4. I am perfectly 100% happy with these scores, considering I think there's a bot still on a few of them. Yeah, there's a bot right here, so technically I'm 2. Normal, like, these two battles I'm just short of dupes, and then this battle I need to kill turn 5 instead of turn 6, which is really difficult. But I'm overall pretty pleased with these scores. I don't think I'm going to redo them unless I really have to. But yeah, so let's get the disclaimers out of the way. Disclaimer number 1 is your scores will vary. Please be conscious of that. Your box will not look the same as my box. Your units will not have the dupes. Your gear will not be as good or maybe better, so your results may vary. This video is to show you strategies, not to give you the end-all be-all. You have to use what you've got, and this is just to give you kind of an idea of what you can possibly use. Disclaimer number 2 is these are the units I use to buff protection gauge, and then these are the units I use to buff skill point gauge, or skill point turn 1, and we will use both of those in these runs. And then disclaimer number 3 is don't forget to go into your town and upgrade your magic buildings and optimize them with units so you can get maximum power out of whatever battle you're going into. But with those out of the way, let's dive into normal 1. Alright, so this is the scores for normal 1 right now. So 49,222 is my highest, 52,7 from the D2R, I assume because he has a much higher duped watermelon than I do. And that's nothing I can do about that. Then we have a bot. So this is the team that I use to achieve this score, and it looks a little weird, but I promise you it works. So we've got Frey, who's going to give us crits. We're also getting extra damage increase because we are fighting a fire unit. So that is part of the good idea and part of the bad idea, because sometimes you're a bit too strong, and it becomes an issue because you kill everything a little bit too quickly, and I definitely had a few of those runs. But we've got Sufia, who's doing double duty, because the first turn 1 is built for a double orange to green orb change, and Sufia can do that. And we will also take use of her second skill, which is the extra 15% ult gauge at the end of the turn. Comes in very clutch. Rain is here to buff the greens, and that's about it. None, like, our 2 DPS units are not magic, so we will not benefit from her other skill. And then we've got Aqua, who is a water unit, just like Rain. It also is going to give us 40% ult gauge on Milim, and that's the only reason why she's here. And we are running 2 of the skill point protectors, so Milim and Soe. That way we start with 40 points, so we can use the orb change from Sufia and the green buff from Rain. And then Milim and Rimuru are damage units. So let's go ahead and get this clip up here. I have to fast forward a little bit. So should be right around here. Yes, right around here. Maybe. Yes. Okay, perfect. Just gotta make sure, right? Okay. So turn 1. 2 oranges, so we need Sufia's orb change right here. We get a whole bunch of defense seals. Don't worry about that. But we have 40 points, so we can use the orb change and the green buff, which will give us a lot of gauge on turn 2. We'll bring Milim in for Sufia, since she's got a guaranteed orb coming next turn, and then we'll bring Rimuru in to get, his ult as well, because if we get an AoE ult with him, cool. We're going to make sure to spread the damage out, because Milim will do a lot of damage to these guys, and most of our team is water, so we will do more damage regardless, which is good, because we get weakness damage. Here we get pretty lucky, though. We get 5 greens and 1 orange. Ideally, you want at least 3 Milim orbs here. 4 would be preferential, but 3 can get you the job. So we're going to use Aqua to buff the ult gauge for Milim. That'll give her an immediate ult. We're going to use some orb skills just to get more crit damage on Milim. Doesn't really matter. These are just throwaway skills. There we go. And now, because we have a full hand of greens, we don't actually have to use Frey here, which is quite lucky. So we won't, because if we use Frey, it will give us 40 points, and that's cool, but we might end up killing everybody, because we're going to get guaranteed crits now. So we're going to use the Charm effect on one of them, and that will give Milim an extra 15% ult gauge at the end of the turn, and that will be very crucial into getting her EX ult here. So now we have to spread the damage between all 3 of the dragons, and then make sure nobody dies, especially the unit that's charmed, otherwise we're not going to get that 15%. And then we'll get double Frey, which is cool, but our buffs are a little expensive. So, we're also not using the hero here for once. We're not using the rewind effect. So, if you don't have the hero, don't worry. You just need other units, right? So, we're just shy, but because of the charm effect, we do manage to get the EX ult for Milim. That was very important right there, which is why you ideally want 4 Milim orbs instead of 3, but if you do have 3, you can still get it. My cat is whining about something. So here we're going to use the 80-point physical buff and the resistance down. We have double Frey, which is 100 points, but even 100 points maxed out is not enough to use the Aqua buff and Milim's own personal buff. And there was no real point that we could use Milim's buff early, right? Because everything lasts for 1 turn, and we couldn't swap her out because we needed that charm effect. So unfortunately, we are stuck with just using a few other skills and then Milim's crit damage. So at least we can use more skills, though, just to bump up her actual crit damage, and then we'll actually use her damage skill, and we're going to nuke one with Milim, one with Aqua, just because she has an ult and she's a water unit, and then we'll send that last Milim orb on the final dragon. So, we can... Come on. What are we doing here? We're just using skills. So, 1, 2, and then 3. So we're up to 52% ult damage, or crit damage. Pretty good. So we'll ult, and then we'll send the final Milim orb on this guy, and we'll call it good. Milim does 447,000, it's pretty good. Aqua does 35, not good. By the way, no one has weapons on except for Milim. I should have mentioned that earlier. Nobody has weapons on except for Milim because I don't want them to kill too early, but that gets us the final score of 49,222. So there we go. Let's come up with an alternate team now. Alright, team number 2 is kind of going back to the old tried and true Towa and hero method, but we're going to use some old units, right? Water Hinata, Water Xian, Water Shuna. 2 units that are on a current banner right now, and they're a year old, almost. Yeah, they are a year old as of next month, so people may or may not have them. But we've got Towa, orb changing to oranges to get us the ults for Hinata and Xian. Sufia is still here. She's free to play. She's still doing the orange orb changing to greens. Shuna's here for the ult buff. The hero's here for the rewind. Hinata's a DPS. Xian is a AoE DPS. It works. It's not great, but it works. So here we'll just jump into right here. So turn 1, we're running the triple protection units again, so no extra like green orb buff. But so we've used the orb change. We're gonna bring Hinata in. We're gonna bring Xian in. Xian does have that turn 2 protection gauge increase, which is really nice. So here, sending all 6 greens on one guy, since we're no longer getting that extra 60% damage that Frey would give to like Water Milim. So there we go. Not quite dead. Not even in the red health yet, which is fine, because we're going to have a rewind turn to play with now. So this is good. We want at least 2 Hinata orbs. 2 Hinata orbs is important. If you can get 2 Xian orbs, or like a 3 and 3, great, because that guarantees you will get both of their ults. But at least here we can guarantee we get Hinata's ult. We're going to get the hero's ult. We have more Xian orbs coming in, though, so we can maybe get that next turn if we get a little lucky. But it is important you get Hinata's ult this turn, because you want to use her attack buff and send her away to the back so you can hold on to it until turn 3. So that's why it's important. If you don't get Hinata's ult on this turn before the rewind, reset. So here, we're going to swap Hinata out. We've already used her attack buff, so now we can hold it in the back. And then we're going to bring Sufia in, and we're going to use the charm just to ensure that we can get Shion's ult, which we do because we have the blue and the green. We can definitely use that, but I just want to ensure that we actually do have enough. So right there, it is enough to get her ult. We're only going to send these 2 orbs though. Kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. Alright, but now we have the ults that we care about. So there's the charm, a little bit extra ult gauge there, but we are ready to go. So Hinata's going to come back in for Sufia, and then we will use the crit resistance buff from the hero, because it's more impactful than the crit buff from Shion, because she only gives 10% magic power, versus the hero's crit resistance down, much more impactful. So that's why we use that instead. And then we'll use Towa, and then we'll have enough points to use the ult buff from Shuna, who's also going to put the water resistance down, which will just help out our damage a little bit. So here, we're going to nuke. We're going to send a couple orbs on the dragon, because he's not nearly close to where I want him to be. So 1 orb, and then 3 orbs here, just to get him down into the red. It's a 200% orb. Even if Shuna doesn't have a weapon on, it still gets him down. There we go. Hinata hits 136, and then Shion hits 48k. So, old units, old damage. Definitely not 447,000 on an EX, right? But it is what it is. And that gets you... I hit the wrong button there. Cut myself off. But 6,000k difference is not bad for a year-old team versus a new team. It's not bad. If you can do it, just get the score and move on with your life. But now, let's move on to Normal Battle 2. Alright, Normal Battle 2, the score 50.1. Kev has beaten me by a little bit, and then the D2R just 400 points above me, and then we got a bot, so don't worry about them. 50k is pretty much what we're shooting for as of right now, being the first full day of Jubilee. It's not bad. The team, though, is a little bit janky, and the stage is a bit janky, because if you don't have the new light Shuna, you're kind of in a bad spot, which is unfortunate that they made the stage like this, but it is what it is. So I've got like 3 teams to show you for this stage. So the first team is the team that I got my highest score with. We've got the Goddess of Destiny team, Mjurran, Trya, the hero, Sokka, Shuna, and then Rain. So Shuna, it's built for a turn 1 triple orb steal with Shuna. That's what it's built for. And these spiders are not tanky, especially not when you're getting that extra damage buff here. Shuna hits like a truck, we know this, so it makes things a little bit complicated. So the team that I ran, it's a it's a little bit RNG dependent, because they need to guard. If they don't guard, you're actually kind of in a bad spot, and you may kill them too quickly. But I believe this is the clip. We gotta get rid of this one. Alright, so here we are. Turn 1, we have the 3 hero orbs, then we have 2 and then 1. So it's built for you to swap out Trya or whoever it is for Shuna, steal into full hand of 6, and then pray that you don't kill everything in 1 turn, which I ran into multiple times. So the steal, we're going to split the orbs up in a fashion where we hopefully don't kill anything. It is kind of janky. Like, sometimes I send a 3-2-1 and the 3 doesn't kill. Sometimes I send the 2-2-2. We are using the full skill point protector, or skill point turn 1 team, so we have enough to use both the steal and the green buff from Rain. So that's why we have no protection gauge starting out here, but we will get the protection gauge after this full orb send. And we have, that's why we have the wind training underneath Rain to give us extra protection gauge on turn 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So spread the damage. 1, 2. See, they don't live that long. We got the lucky guard there, which is good. And then he's... because if he hadn't guarded, he would have died. And that would have been not the greatest thing in the world. So, realistically, this doesn't take very long. You just need to get her EX ult. That's the only thing you need. And you only need 1 spider to live. So, sending just enough orbs to get her EX ult plus 100 points is going to be important, because you want to use Shuna's 25-point buff, the hero's 25-point buff, Sokka's 25-point buff, and Rain's 25-point buff. You need 100 points to do that, and you need an EX ult, which thankfully, because we brought the hero 2.0, we could swap her ult and then we thankfully didn't kill that middle spider, which means that we now have 100 points. We can use Mjurran to give ourselves the crit, and this will be the nuke. You cannot even see his health. He has 33 health, I believe. I check it here, but it's crazy. So we're gonna skip ahead because obviously we use all of the buffs here. So there's the light and crit damage, the resistance is down, there's the attack buff from Soka, and then we'll bring Rain in for the magic buff, the 40% because it's still turn 3, and then the 20% magic resist down. We'll use Mjurran to give ourselves the crit. The follow-up doesn't matter because it's going to evaporate this thing, and then we go ahead and kill him. So, let's see, how much do we do here? 514,000 damage is pretty good. Is pretty good. Now, maybe if you get extremely, extremely lucky, you can have one other spider live, and you can have like a follow-up Shuna orb, and you can send on that. I don't know if that's feasible, but certainly if it does happen, do it, because Shuna's going to do a crap ton of damage on that one orb, alongside the 500-something thousand ult that we did. So that's my best team right there. Let's move on to some less fortunate teams. Alright, if you were not as fortunate and you didn't pull Shuna, or any of the other Goddess of Destiny units, or you didn't even attempt to do it, you're going to be stuck in a little bit of a rut on this stage, because no one else has a triple orb steal. So we're going to use a double orb stealer. Light Daggerel. He has type advantage. We're going to steal into a bunch of Milim orbs, because Milim is an AoE magic unit, which the stage is weak against light and magic. And there's 3 of them, so she makes sense. Sadly, mine is only level 80, so she's not going to do the most damage. We have the hero here for the rewind again. Shuna here for the ult gauge. Bride Xion is here as a backup secondary DPS unit. And then we've got Towa. Tried and true. Oranges. Give me the ult. No one here has an EX ult, so we don't need to worry about that. We just need at least an ult with Milim. Maybe an ult with Milim and Xion if you can swing it. But let's go ahead and throw the clip up, and here we go. So starting, we've swapped Daggerel in from the back. We're going to use his double orb steal, so we have 5 Daggerel orbs. We're going to bring Milim in then for Daggerel, and we're going to send all 5 on one spider, because she doesn't do a lot of damage. We don't have that massive 60% increase from being on a force, so we're not really in danger of killing them too quickly. Alright, so here on turn 2, we don't have enough for, oh no, actually we do, right? Because it's 5 orbs. Because we're using full protection units now, not the skill point ones. So we'll rewind here. We'll use Towa. That will give us Milim's ult right here, because we have 2 orbs. But first we're going to bring in Xion, because I do want her ult as well, and this is a perfect time, so we're going to swap Shuna out for that. And we can get her ult here, and Milim's ult, guarantee that we can have 2 ults going into turn 3. That'd be really nice, and again, we're not really in danger of killing them too fast, because our units are weaker, and our protector is weaker. So we'll send 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll split it up to 5 and 6 on the right spider, and this will spread the damage out a little bit. And we are going to also use the attack buff from Milim, because that will stay active on Milim when we send her to the back, because she's going to get her ult here. Unfortunately, we can't keep Xion in the back, though, because we can only swap 1 unit, so she's not going to have that 45% attack buff, but that's fine. We're really looking for Milim to do the AoE damage, right? So that's the important part. The rewind kicks in, Milim can go away now, Xion has to stay up front, but it doesn't really affect our hand. Daggerel comes in, and we do need another Towa, right? And thankfully, even if we didn't have these 3 blues, the hero's trait and Guy's trait underneath Daggerel would give us the protection gauge that we would need. So we just need 110 points, right? Because we need the ult buff, we need the crit buff. We don't have enough to use Xion's personal buff. That's fine. So as long as you can get 110 points, and you don't need max skill point. So Milim comes back in. We will use the crit buff here. Make sure we can do max damage, and then we'll use Towa to give us an extra 40 points. And then we will bring in Water Shuna for her buff which again is why I'm glad that we have Guy and Megumin as high point, high cost changers and buffers, but Shuna fits really good onto, even burst teams like this, because she doesn't cost, as much. So 69,000 with Shion, and then 49k, almost 50 with Milim. Not great, but again, it's a budget team, not like super whaley, quote unquote. But that gets us 41.8, so definitely a lot lower score, but if it's what you got, it's what you got. So there is an example for a team for you, and I have one more to show you. Alright, this is the last team that I've got for normal 2. It's the Light 2.0 Pierce team. Bride Shizu. Bride Shion now coming back as our dedicated DPS unit. Groom Rimuru as a sub DPS, even though he's not that great at it. Isis, the hero, and then Fantasy Shizu, EX Wind Shizu, because she can buff Goddess of Destiny units, which is good. So, actually, World of Fantasy, I think. And Goddess of Destiny? No, it's Fount of Wisdom in Fantasy, which Shion is on, so it works. We are running, again, 2 skill point units on turn 1, because we are going to use Isis's orb change, her double blue to double green, and then her green buff as well to give us maximum value. So instead of stealing orbs, we're just going to change 2 of them and let it ride. Here we go. Alright. So, because Rimuru has his trait, he's giving us extra protection gauge on turn 1, 2, and 3, which is good, because we do need that. Here, we're going to use Isis and Isis, so that gives us 5 greens that are buffed. Now we'll bring on Shion for Isis, because we want Rimuru up here still. And we need the hero up here for the rewind next turn. And we'll go ahead and send all of this, because again, we're not really in danger of killing them too quickly. We're a little bit stronger here than we were on the last team, though. So, 5 orbs is just the right amount there. And then we'll use the rewind to give us a Shizu next turn, because we are just shy of it. It wasn't quite enough, which is unfortunate, but we got to live with it, and we can get around it. So here, we'll use this orb change to give us 3 greens. We'll bring this Shizu in for the hero, now that she's served her purpose for now. We've already used the rewind, but apparently I'm not going to swap her out, so never mind. We're sending these 3 Shion orbs. Yeah, because that gets us almost her ult. Actually, that will get us her ult, because of her trait. She gets extra ult gauge for the first 3 turns. So there we go. Now we've swapped. Let's use the attack buff. So good. 15% extra attack there, permanent. And then we'll split these 2 orbs up, because they do hurt a little bit. And now, even if we don't get a Shion orb, we will get her ult. But we do get a Shion orb, so not a big deal. And this entire hand will be green, which means that we're going to get a lot of skill points, a lot of gauge. So let's go ahead and use some skills to buff up Shion. She is skill fused, so she does start out at a much higher base pierce power than a normal Shion does. So here we go. Full hand of greens. Now we have to make sure that we don't kill 2 people, because we ideally want like 3 of them alive, because we could do 1 nuke with Shion, 1 nuke with Rimuru, and then 1 normal attack with Shion. And thankfully, I believe it does work out like that. Yes, just barely. By the skin of my teeth, it is still alive. So here we go. We've got 100 points, and now we will use the crit buff from the hero, we'll use the attack buff from Shion, and that's pretty much all we can do, because another Shizu buff is too expensive. So we'll use 1 more 15-point skill just to get extra pierce power out of it, and then we'll go ahead and reapply Shion, and we will nuke here. We actually do decent damage for an old team, and I think this gets a higher score than the last team did, which is saying something. But let's do the ult here, because that spider has the full pierce resistance down that Rimuru put on. So 192, almost 200k. All right, Rimuru does 68k. All right, whatever. And then 41k on the normal orb from Shion, and that gets us, I believe, 43,000. What is it, about 2,000 higher than last time? 44, ooh, even better. So there we go. There's 3 different team options for you for normal 2. It's probably the most funky stage and the one you're going to have the least amount of fun on if you don't have the new Bride Shuna, but hopefully you have an idea now. Let's move on to normal 3. Alright, the final part. Boss battle, or not, no, normal battle 3. This is, the stages are all the same for normal battle 3s. It's, you stack for 6 turns, or 5 turns if you can get lucky, and you do 1,000,000 damage to the enemy. So I'm sitting at 68,195. Once you hit that 1,000,000 damage cap, the only thing that's going to increase your score is how much damage you took, or if you can magically kill on turn 5 and get the extra 2,000 points you get for the turn bonus. Because technically max turn bonus is turn 5, but all of the mushrooms, defenses, and stuff leave on turn 6, which make it easier to get to that 1,000,000 cap. So that's what Kev has done. He's killed on turn 5. It requires a good amount of RNG to do so, and I can't be bothered for 2,000 points. So all the teams I'm going to show you are turn 6 ones. And the first one is going to be one of the highest scoring ones that I've personally gotten. It's not quite 68195, but it's like 6809 something or something like that. But it is this team right here. Not this team, actually. Hold on. It's this team. We've got the full meta plus Violet for that extra ult resistance down. Now, the stage is built for turn 1 like Trya hand, like special convert to greens, which makes not a lot of sense, considering this is a blue-focused team. So I don't know what they were thinking, but we kind of forego that, and we send 4 greens turn 1, and then we just try and push as many blues as possible, and get Megumin to an ult, and then full buffer with literally everybody, and you'll do over the 1,000,000 cap. So, turn 1 right here, again, we've got Megumin and Aqua in the back. They have their traits from their support slots, so we're going to get a good amount of protection gauge on turn 2. We're going to send the 4 greens. None of my units have attack gear on except for Megumin and Violet because I don't want them to do too much damage to the mushroom. And we get fairly lucky on turn 2 where we can just use the orb change with Megumin and then start rushing her ult, which is important. And then we get a stack with Rimuru, and from this point forward it's just a stacking team for 4 more turns. So do your best to get as many stacks as possible with Aqua to rush Megumin's ult as far and as fast as possible. We're going to send her last so we don't do unnecessary damage, because sometimes he doesn't guard, and a 200% orb from my Megumin does about 25,000 damage if he doesn't guard, and that's really not what you want to see. So we've got another stack of Rimuru, and what does the hand look like? It looks fairly good, because we can use Megumin's orb change and Cosma, and we'll be all set, essentially. So there we go. Violet can also convert. She can come in and convert her own orbs into blues if we need her to. She is space, so she does have type disadvantage against the mushroom, so you don't want to leave her up front too long, because you don't want her to take unnecessary damage, because your remaining HP is factored into your score. But we already have a Megumin ult. That's good. We can continue rushing it. We have 2 more turns to do so. 2 more stacks of Rimuru. And, I mean, it's pretty much what we've been doing for, like, Inferno, right? For beatdown battle. That's now gone, but it's not a difficult team to wrap your head around. So we're just gonna skip all the way to the end. So let's see, this is turn 6. Yep, turn 6. So we have an EX ult for Megumin. We have 300 points, and now we have enough to use that, and then we're gonna be down 1 buff. And I forego the attack buff and the defense down, because he no longer has like really high defense, so I don't really think we need to lower it even more, because it won't be that effective. We're going to use the ult resistance down, and then we'll bring Fire Shizu, old Fire Shizu, in for her 55 point buff, and then we'll just nuke away, and then we'll get our final score. So 1.8 million, didn't need to do that much. Again, the damage cap is 1 million total, including all the damage due up until the nuke. So you can see right here, 1.9 million, but our max score is 39,000, and the multiplier is 0.039, so 1 million damage is all you need to do to cap. The turn bonus, 15k instead of 17 something, so that's where 2,000 points is going to come from if you can kill on turn 5, and then our damage received score. If you have higher dupes, they have higher defenses, they'll take less damage, blah, 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 blah. So that's one team you can run. You don't have to use Violet. You can use the new swimsuit Shizu just as effectively. She'll work fine, and she'll probably make things a little bit easier, but also harder at the same time, because she doesn't have Violet's orb convert for herself. She just has the ult swap, which is useful, but can sometimes not get what you want. So there's the first team. Let's come back with another team. Just wanted to show this off. So you're supposed to really bring Trya for that turn 1 full 6 of greens. The same team, Aqua, Megumin's the only really the only magic damage dealing DPS for fire, so she's kind of locked in. If you don't have Megumin, then your options take a drastic downturn. But the rest of the team, we'll go ahead and put this clip up, and we'll skip all the way to the nuke turn. So we've gotten, let's see, how many stacks have we gotten so far? 6 stacks? Yeah, somewhere around there. We're on turn 5. So we're gonna get another stack here with the trait. So yeah, we'll get 7 stacks here, and then we'll nuke with full power buff. And we'll bring Aqua in, so now we have the fire buff, the Aqua buff, the Cosmo buff, the Megumin buff. And we'll nuke, and we do 1.15, which again is over 1 million, so that's certainly enough damage to get you to the cap. And that gets us almost the same exact score, right? 68.047, because once you're over 1 million, it doesn't matter. And again, it's turn bonus and your damage received. Now let's try an actual different team. Okay, bit of a different team. Assuming you have Megumin still, but you didn't get anybody else, but you have Albus, you have Raphael, Trya was free, you have Milim, and you have Protector Shuna, who is a really, really good damaging protector, except when you try and take it into a stage where you're supposed to use a force, where you get that extra 60% damage. So we're going to get the stun strike and the pierce power. Raphael's going to be able to activate that. Albus is here to lower the pierce resistance and be the green orb changer. Milim can give us a 45% attack buff and convert her own orbs to blue, so we have that covered. And then Megumin is still Megumin. And then we have Trya here for the turn 1 orb change. And, in theory, this would work pretty well. We have buff, double buff, essentially, buff, and double buff. So, theoretically, this should work out, but it actually doesn't quite live up to snuff. So, go ahead and start this battle up. Turn 1, we'll use Trya's orb change, full 6 greens, that gets us off to a lot of protection gauge. We'll bring Megumin in for Milim, because Milim should stay in the back as long as possible so we can make use of her convert. And then we'll go ahead and send this. We're going to send Megumin last because we don't have the force damage now, so we're losing a lot of extra additional damage. So there's no real harm in not sending Megumin last to get the mushroom down as low as possible. We also don't have anyone that can help rush Megumin's ult, which is another big issue. So we did get lucky and we get a good orb change turn 1 where we don't have to use anything, but it's pretty much the only thing we have to use. So Raphael, just continue sending. We'll have to get Megumin's ult the hard way. If you have like the ult gauge increase charm, you can certainly use that every time because it's like 16% when it's maxed out. And if you're going to use it 5-6 times, that'll probably help you out getting an ult. So here, we got double stack of Shuna. Excellent, so that's 30% now. And then because we have Milim in the back, we can bring her in for Raphael, and then use her convert, and then Megumin's convert, and we still have a full hand of blue. Which is why units like Rimuru and Milim are very, very, very good for blue-focused teams. So it just makes things a whole lot easier. But unfortunately, we only have one Megumin orb, which doesn't really do too much for us. But it will get us her ult next turn. So we'll go ahead and send that last. Cool beans. This is a turn 6 kill. This is not a team built for turn 5. You need a lot of buffs and a lot of RNG for that. So now we have the ult, turn 4, another stack of Shuna. We get quite a few Megumin orbs, and I think I actually misplay here, because I probably should have just left them as is for the extra ult gauge, but I end up converting them, which maybe was not the best idea. We're going to get Trya out of here, so we get the extra blue orb that comes in. Maybe, or do we send it? Oh, we do send it, okay. So there we go. 4 Megumin orbs plus Trya's ult, 5,000 damage is not, it's not bad. Not great. Sorry, not bad. No, it's terrible. Not bad for his HP, though, because obviously he's still in the green, or in the yellow. So turn 5, we're not going to get an EX ult for Megumin, which if we had, maybe we would break the 1 million barrier, but spoiler alert, we don't. So we're just going to make do with what we can. Most of these buffs, she has to be up front, so we kind of have to leave her on this turn. So we're just going to attack buff here, so we don't have to worry about Megumin not having a Milim buff, and we're going to swap her out after we orb change. Because then after this we can use Albus's orb change and call it good, and Milim's orb change. So change 1 and then change 2, full hand of blues gets us a lot of points back, and that'll be enough for a double stack of Shuna and maximum points. And so we've already used the 45% attack buff on Megumin, so we don't have to use that anymore. So we're over-capped on points now. And now on turn 6, all of his guard and his defense leaves, so nothing to worry about. We do lose the light resistance down, which is not a big deal because we're not nuking with a light unit. But we'll use... what do we use there? We use the Pierce buff, I think? We used something there. I don't remember what we used. But we should have everything active now, because even if we didn't get the... Oh, we got the Pierce resistance down. That's what we did on Albus, because Raphael's going to give us Pierce anyways. So as long as she gets the Pierce from somebody, it's fine. So now we're full buffed, and then we do 700,000 damage. Not quite what we were looking for, but you know, if you don't have the Protector, then you have at least some support around her. We do 772k, not a million, so we lost points there, and we only hit 59.3 instead of the 68,000, so almost 10k difference right there. But if you don't have the Rimuru, you're not going to get maximum value because you're not getting that extra 60% damage increase on top of everything else. So there's a substitute team, and now let's do a team where you don't have Megumin at all. Alright, the last team is, you know, supposing you don't have any of the collab units, but you happen to have the Fount of Wisdom team. You've got Guy, because you should have summoned on that banner if you were playing back then, and then Santa Shizu. So Diablo buffs Primal Demons. Violet is a Primal Demon. She's also a fire unit. Now she's not magic, but she's still a strong DPS single target fire attacker. So we're going to put her with a shit ton of support and a bunch of orb changers so we can get at least a decent run out of her. So Albus has the green orb changing and the Pierce. We've got Santa Shizu for the fire buffs and the Pierce power. Guy is here for the 80% alt buff plus his massive orb changing ability. Violet has her own personal crit and Pierce and attack buff. So even if we don't like have her up front with Violet or with Albus and Guy, she's still going to have crit and Pierce, so that's fine. And then we have physical Rimuru for his 60% physical attack buff. And we'll do our best to get a run. Sadly, I was not able to get a perfect run out of this because I was missing a few buffs. But, RNG is the way it is. And I've literally been playing this, all day. And I'm kind of tired of Jubilee. And I'm kind of tired of normal battles, because I haven't started any of my boss battles yet. So we're just going to do this last segment of the video. We're going to call it good. Timestamps are in the description. Hopefully this video helps you out. Trying to make a team that can clear the stages and get you some semblance of a score. But honestly, Jubilee is Jubilee, right? It's catered to teams that you should or should not have. Okay, that was a dead run. We know what stacking looks like, right? First turn, we send 4 greens because we don't have a green orb changer here, and then we just run wild with blues, and we keep stacking, and we keep stacking. And then on turn 6, we are missing the fire buff, and we're missing the Pierce power buff from Shizu, but otherwise, we have everything. So we've got 250 points, so we can use the Pierce buff, the physical buff, and the alt buff from Guy, so just enough power there. We already have the attack and the crit and Pierce buffs that Violet gives herself already on, so we don't need to worry about that. So we'll just use Guy's alt buff, and we'll swap him out, because it'll hit her in the back. And then we will use the physical and the Pierce buff. So the only thing we're missing, if a perfect run, you would get Violet's alt by turn 4, and you'd have enough points to use the fire buff from Shizu and the Pierce buff. and then Sunder away until turn 6. But 440,000-ish there. I mean, it's definitely not great, but you're not using any of the current meta characters, so you can't really expect too much out of it. But there we go. There are multiple teams for all 3 stages of Heroes Jubilee 27. Let me know if this video helped you out, but that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.